Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show coming at you after Game 3 of the Pacers versus the Boston Celtics. What a game. I suspected that the Pacers could call up the Timberwolves and ask them about 18-point leads and how they feel about those because they both had them, they both lost them. What's happened, everybody out there? Great to see everybody going out, streaming into the chat right now. Don't forget, if you want your questions answered, and there probably will be a lot of questions, then Super Chat is the way to go over on the YouTube side. What's going on? Nick's the streets are buzzing. Great to see you. Martin, Jose, great to see you out there. Who else is out there? A lot of the usual suspects. Braun, great to see you out there. Brandon, Martin, Saul, Mark, everybody. So, I'm not even sure where we're going to start. I know that referee Chip is going to join us in a minute to come in and talk about some of the calls. But man, oh man, I thought that the Pacers finally had this one after having blown game 1. And then we're going to have all these, think pieces about how they really should be up 2-1. And in theory, the Pacers probably, or could be certainly have a really legitimate shot at saying that they should be up 2-1. And maybe the other context here is, what are we going to talk about in terms of the Celtics not being able to put down the Pacers team missing their best player? That is probably more of the indictment, more of the worry if you're going forward and looking at how they're going to do, like in the finals, let's say, because they're not going to lose a 3-0 lead. But let's bring Chip in. Let's get going with our discussion here. Chip, how's it going, my man?
Hey, I'm good, Coach Nick. How you doing?
Oh, it's a weird day, a weird day all around. I'm sure if you asked TJ McConnell, he'd probably say the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What a game from him, though, man.
Listen, everybody played really pretty well. Nembhard did a really good Halliburton impersonation, I thought. And I started to look at thinking, he might have a bag that we don't know about. He was getting a little shifty out there. He was doing some work. And, it is sort of a function of the fact that they had to take up the slack. Someone had to be aggressive and do it, and Nembhard was the guy. And again, Siakam, did have another game where it was like, okay, this is the kind of game they needed. They probably needed a little bit more from him. I feel like he sort of disappeared a little bit down the stretch. And I think that ultimately the Obi Toppin minutes killed them. I'm going to open up the box score real quick. I'm curious what his plus minus was because it's a noisy stat, but sometimes when my eye test hits something, I can confirm it.
Oh, no, check it out.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts, your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so, I think so all the things that you just said. And then part of the reason, too, that that people like Siakam weren't able to get some, easy touches in the paint and easy buckets in the paint like they were able to earlier is because the Celtics took that away. The Pacers were shooting abysmal from 3 tonight. I think they finished 5 of 22, something along those lines. So they really weren't a threat from behind the arc. And they had gotten in the first 3 quarters, 60 paint points in the paint. So, the Celtics just took that away and really prevented them from kind of driving, getting into the lane, getting some of those easier baskets, took away lobs, took away easy buckets around the rim. And that made it difficult. That's around the time when I text you, the start of the fourth quarter. I feel like the Celtics may go on a little run and potentially win this going away. They didn't win it going away, but it was one of those where you just kind of felt like the Pacers were running out of gas a little bit, but they also weren't able to get their bread and butter that they were able to get earlier in the game. And with the 3 not falling, it's tough to come back. It's tough to keep that lead.
I could picture, I think Turner had got a really good look on a right wing 3 that didn't go down off of, maybe it was an offensive rebound, the kick back out. That's the one where you think, okay, that goes down. That gives them the 10-point lead again, something like that, and a little bit of breathing room. They just couldn't make it happen. But even in the midst of the second half, the Celtics had moments they did not look good at all. And Tatum got an assist on a kick out, having bounced the ball off of his defender's foot. And I'm like, that's just, I guess the leprechauns were out tonight because, that should have been a turnover or whatever. He tried to cross over, dribble off, and he somehow grabbed it and threw it out, and then it somehow was open. Yeah. Of course, by the way, Obi Toppin +7. So there was a moment in that fourth quarter, and I texted you, I said, I have no idea why he's in because he was doing some things that were hurting the team. But they were able to cover up just enough to kind of barely get a stop when you realize, that was not a good decision. That was not a good decision. So he was in there. There's a little bit of a run where they got a little bit of, in the middle or the beginning of the fourth quarter, I believe The Pacers, like, they were okay. They were going back and forth. It was okay. I think he benefited from that little stretch run there.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, the reason he ended up plus is probably because like his mistakes were not turnovers. I think he only had like 1 or 2 turnovers, maybe. So I mean, but it was decision making. It was stuff like that just didn't. It got him deep in the shot clock sometimes. Like there wasn't really any threat of him to score, or him to really find the open man. So that was, for me, that was what the eye test told me with Toppin, and I was surprised he was in there as well. I mean, but listen, I hate to say this too, man. Tatum went off. He almost had a triple double, but like it didn't seem like that. You know what I mean? We were texting about that too.
When you told me he had 36 right before they put it on the screen, I was like, what? Like, that doesn't sound right. But you know what? I'd forgotten in the very beginning, right? Like in the first quarter, he had a nice run where he got like 12, 15 points, something like that, I think. My memory serves. But if we pull this apart in a minute, when I be able to refresh the thing, we'll be able to go to third quarter and isolate the quarters in the box score. We're going to see a stretch there where didn't look good on either end. He was getting scored on. He wasn't scoring. He didn't look good offensively. Nobody did for the Celtics. They had a stretch there, which, it makes you really concerned that, like, the regular season might end up turning into something going forward in the NBA that doesn't necessarily indicate anything. You know what I mean?
People already think that anyway.
Yeah, right. And because teams aren't practicing much at all in the regular season anymore. You have a talented team, then you get by with a lot of stuff. But I'm starting to sense that this is what the Celtics did. Now, did they win? In the minimum amount of games, so far? Like, yeah. But there's so many moments in all these games where it wasn't like they just put them down, even when the other teams were really, at a disadvantage. So that's a little sign. And then what you find out, I think, is that in those regular season games, like half the teams you're playing are not playoff teams, right? Mm-hmm. So you're getting a little bit of inflatedness going on.
But isn't it funny a little bit, like how some of the trends that you see throughout the regular season hold true in the playoffs as well? So like, even though it's different, for example, tonight, I'll give you a great example. Tonight, Celtics end up winning by the skin of their teeth, right? Mm-hmm. But they ended up shooting more free throws than the Pacers did, because the Pacers foul more. They foul more in the act of shooting. That's the way they were. They were dead last in opponents' free throw. You put it in your video the other day, opponents' free throw attempts. So the Celtics still outpaced them on free throw attempts. And listen, Indiana, to their credit, the free throw attempts they got, they made all of them. You know what I mean? So that's how they were able to keep that gap, for a little while as well. But I mean, some of those trends still hold true throughout the, from an offensive defensive standpoint, from opponents' free throw percentages, fouls, all that type stuff, because those are kind of interwoven into the fabric of a team.
That is a really great point as well. You're right. And so maybe the point is like the really talented teams can that maybe don't have great, their offense doesn't function great, but like can overwhelm all the bottom teams. They might look better than they are. Whereas the other teams that have issues and negative issues defensively, well, those things don't get solved. Like that happens, that's going to happen. It doesn't change necessarily. It should change, and I'm really frustrated by that. And we showed, by the way, how many points did the Celtics end up getting? 111. Where did they finish? 114. Yeah. So it's like without Halliburton in there, who is a real culprit, on defense, we're letting a lot of people get into the lane a lot. Without him in there, it was a little bit better, right? Like their defense was better, and then they were able to, cobble together more offense around everybody else. So we have our first super chat. Let's get to that. Cliffside. All right. Hey, Cliffs, great to see you again. Thanks so much for being part of the show. I like that football-like play on the Pacers' last possession. I got the shooter a good look. How would you defend that, Coach? So I ran to my office after the three-point play by Drew Holiday. And I turned it on. All of a sudden, the Celtics have the ball again. Like I missed that, so I actually had to go back and watch it. And I kind of just watched the very end, where I guess Nesmith is running. Maybe I should just kind of quickly. Was it worth watching again, Chip? Was it a really good play?
It's worth watching again, because I actually wanted to comment on something that Pacers fans are going to be probably complaining about tomorrow, but there's not a legitimate reason to. On that shot, a lot of them are probably going to say that Nesmith potentially got fouled. On that last second shot, but I know that as he's turning to shoot, He catches it on the run, right? He catches it going away, turns to shoot. There is going to be a natural drift with your leg, your outside leg, when you turn to shoot like that. But he literally extends that right leg to seek out contact. And that's why when that contact with that leg occurs as he's turning, it turns him, causes him to fall to the floor. But that was because of his extended unnatural leg kick out. And that's why it was not called a foul.
Okay. And just to show you that the DirecTV stream, which is what I use to watch TV now, is so bad that I press 15 seconds back a whole bunch of times. I'm now in the beginning, and now the play button won't let me. It won't be. It's stuck on a pause. It won't let me play. So I got to probably go back, hit it again, fast forward, and do the whole thing all over again.
But to answer Cliffside's question, and you can chime in too when you find it. I liked that. Sorry about that. I liked that. Sorry, my dog is making a mess in here. Anyway, I liked that style of play right there. It can throw in a misdirection at them, stuff like that. It's a football-like play. A lot of times you see it run on inbounds passes where they can actually run the inline after the baseline after a made basket for the throw in. So you'll see them line up in the football style, play, and then they'll do crossing patterns and all that stuff. I liked it. Hey, ultimately it got him an open look. It wasn't the best look. He's running away, he's fading away. But it's one of those where you want a shot to tie the game up right there, and he had space to do it.
Okay, so I just saw. Yes, now I see how they line up in a diamond and then broke, and then they ran in football. It's a what's it called? It's a pick play, I guess they call it, right?
Yep.
Where you're trying to run. You're trying to. I'm forgetting the word they use in basketball too. Anyway. So how would you? Well, first of all, that play is really well designed, but you really got to be throwing the ball where it's in front of him when he's receiving it, not like behind, and then he's got to try and find the basket again, which I feel like is where he caught it a little bit later than they would want. So that's part of it, right? That's why they started it so late in the backcourt or so far in the backcourt, because you'd have that room. And then defensively, obviously, I think they defended it as well as they were going to defend it. Now you have the option of fouling when you're up by 3, right? But when there's only a 1.4, what was it? It's
1.3. I would, or 1.7. I would not risk it.
Yeah, it's not like, it's funny. I want you to do it under 10, but not under 3 or 2.5. Because at that point the guy is going up. It's pretty much as soon as he's touching the ball, and there's no way to get the foul before the shot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's a good play. We saw it's funny. I did a video on the one that the Raptors ran under Nick Nurse a year ago, 2 years ago. Where they did they're all in the line of scrimmage near the half court and did some interesting thing there. So yeah, there are some fun. Now there is a rule though, as I recall, there's an ancient rule in the NBA rule book about positioning that would prohibit you couldn't have a guy, maybe it was before the illegal or the defensive rules changed, but you couldn't have, for instance, a post player on the block with somebody guarding him man to man, and you couldn't put everybody else all the way up in the other corner. Does this sound familiar? Do you ever see this rule?
Honestly, it doesn't seem familiar.
I swear there was something. I remember maybe 10, 12 years ago. So one of those guys because what you could do, they had to prevent, unless I'm having a fever dream, it wouldn't happen. But I swear back in the day, it could have been from the illegal defense rules because I'll think about that. You put Kareem on the block, and you have everybody else on the weak side, bunched up in the weak side corner. He would, not that they would, I don't know, because he would score one-on-one anyway in the post. It was something like that. Anyway, well, I'll have to do some research and try and figure out what that was.
One of the rules is that you can't be bunched up or parallel with the line, on a throw-in, have all your guys bunched up right there, or most of them, to where a defender can't have take a position that they actually want to take to be able to defend that play, or that throw-in. So, yeah, that's one of the rules, but
there was something, but you know what? Maybe I don't know. Anyway, so that's what I would do. So anyway, as far as defending it, you probably want to go under it because there's a lot of room between where the balls are being inbounded and where they're starting. So I would have probably even defensively given them a little bit more space. I would have been more in the front court anyway, because they want you to get all tangled up and run into each other, which is what they tried, and they on that brush screen. And it worked for them. So, but a tough shot. That's why, again, if he had caught it in looking at front, and then he doesn't have to turn very much to get that shot off, that would be the highest percentage.
Yeah, lead in a little bit.
Yeah, I just kind of want to see one more time, why. So he just waited. Oh, I see. He had to clear it because Horford was shading to the backcourt, so there wasn't the pass that way. He had to wait until he got past him. I would have probably taken a different angle. I would have, if I were Neesmith, I would have cut it earlier. Anyway,
so we talk about the play type. We talk about the play design, but like, were you a little surprised that Nembhard was the one throwing the ball in after the game he's had? Would you have liked to made him a scoring option potentially?
You know what? God darn it, that's a great point. I mean, I know he must have been like the best decision maker passer, but on this kind of play, you got to have your best shooter out there for this. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, did Neesmith even hit a 3 all game? I think McConnell and maybe Nembhard were the only ones that made a 3 that game.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing.
Yeah, Neesmith didn't have a great game. He was 2 for 4 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3 for 4 points. That's a mistake. Was Shepherd out there? No. That's crazy.
Oh, maybe he wasn't.
No, they went with McDermott, which is another tough one. All right, that's McDermott out there, right? Yeah.
So Nembhard's 4 for 7 from 3. And the only other player that has made a 3 on the Pacers is McConnell. And Nembhard's 4 for 7 from 3, and he's throwing the ball in.
I know. And by the way, like, I would have had Shepherd, I would have had Nembhard out there to receive it. Yeah, that's crazy. And McDermott, at least he played, because sometimes you put a player in who hasn't played all game in that situation. That's like almost impossible, right? Like, you're not warm, nothing, no rhythm, anything. But at least
he got that tip back to end the half right when he subbed in. So maybe they were looking for lightning in the ball. I don't know.
Yeah, but you're right. I think that's a little bit troubling, and I wonder if anyone's going to ask Carlisle about that, because there isn't a lot to explain that other than I don't know. I mean, the only explanation for Nembhard would be that he's like their best passer, but put TJ McConnell there. TJ could be that guy. He's the same size. It's not like it wasn't like a big guy who could see over somebody and make that pass. So that is a great point, Chip, and that's why you're here.
Thanks.
The Drew Show. Thank you so much, Drew Show. So I'm seeing him on Twitter now. I'm seeing we're here as always in the chat. Great to have you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Rick, kudos for coaching up the team to not give up after losing Halliburton, except why don't you get the best players out there for the last play? Rick, what up with melting down sub 2 minutes in the game? Gather, smother. Rick, what up with melting down sub 2 minutes in the game? Did he do a sub in the first 2 minutes of the game? Is that what he's saying?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Uh-oh. We might have to have a clarification. I'm
sorry, Drew Show. Yeah, we might need an explanation from you, brother.
Yeah. We're not exactly sure, but Rick, he's not happy with Rick, it sounds like, and maybe neither are we. It's funny. I interviewed Rick Carlisle back in the day, at Summer League, and it did not go well.
It didn't.
It was a weird story. It's up there. You can go look at it, and there's all sorts of weirdness afterwards. And apparently that's not unusual, I guess, for him. Listen, I have my share of strange interactions with lots of people too, I suppose. But apparently, people were not surprised when they heard what was going on. It was wild, I guess I could say. But he was weird. It was back when he had hair and he looked like Jim Carrey.
Oh yeah.
And he was you're having some fun, and then it turned he turned very quickly.
I think what the Drew Show may have meant on that is the last 2 minutes of the game. So did you see anything in the last 2 minutes of the game from Rick from a coaching standpoint that really felt like a meltdown to you?
Well, the only thing I thought was the Neesmith was on the bench for way too long in that fourth quarter, and they had Obi in there, but that was like 7 minutes to go or something like that. But I don't know. I was too busy being wrapped up in the game and like just kind of looking what they were running. I don't know if I noticed anything with the subs, but maybe he'll add some more context. Cato, Paison, thank you so much. Cato, how crazy was that steal by Drew Holiday?
It's very good. And here's the thing. I feel like, even if somebody asked Rick about the last play and about who was throwing it in and personnel, like, I think he's going to be more interested in wanting to talk about this particular play in that press conference. Maybe he's going to show some restraint so he doesn't get fined. However, listen, this is a tough play, not only to officiate, but I think they got it right. And not only do I know they got it right. Here's the reason why. Here's my rationale. So pump the brakes real quick. If you're wanting to get angry with me for just saying that, just hear me out real quick, and then we can make a decision, right? So in that particular play, Drew Holiday, as he shifts in the path and remains in the path. Okay. So as the contact at Nimhard's dribbling into him, all right, he reaches in and deflects the ball away with his left hand as Nimhard is initiating the contact to him while he's a legal defender.
Yeah.
And so the contact with the ball as he pokes it away occurs almost simultaneously. But even if the body contact had occurred first, I have Holiday in a legal guarding position at that point, directly in his path. So in my opinion, even if he hadn't poked that ball away, Nimhard was going to be dribbling right into him. And I think Holiday's absolved of any responsibility for contact on that play. I know since Nimhard fell to the floor, it's more provocative. Now Rick's upset. He thinks there's something that went on. There's a foul. Keep in mind, he's 40 feet away from the play. You know what I mean? On the other end. So like he doesn't have a great angle on it originally when he gets upset about it. But in my opinion, it's a bang, bang play. I understand why he would be upset about it. Plus, even if it wasn't a foul, you've got to fight for your team right there. If you're Rick, you got to try to, show some fight like that. So I get it. But I don't think that he should continue complaining about this particular play because I felt it was the correct decision to not.
I know the rules don't really talk about this, but like the positioning of Nemhart, he was leaned so far forward with his shoulder, in the angle, which to me kind of felt like he wasn't balanced and he was sort of leading as well. Not that that's an offensive foul or anything, but that's why I would feel like it just wasn't a foul because, you're right. Drew Holiday was in the path anyway, and he was square. All those things play into it. So, part of me, I'm just looking at it again. Let me just look at how they got there because I know that sometimes, or a lot of times, coaches say, just let them go. Right? You get a fast break. Maybe we'll get a good shot. We're down 1, we want to score. But I'm looking at what they had. As soon as you get the rebound, there's a pacer on the ground under the basket.
Yep.
There is, and then now, by the way,
that's red flag number one. Red flag number one, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, by the way, Nemhart turns up the court so fast that remember, once you do that and you call a timeout, you have to inbound it where the ball was when you call the timeout because you can't turn up the floor, right? Like basically, you have to catch.
Yeah. Once you start advancing the ball, you can no longer call a timeout to advance.
Yeah. Now you can catch the ball, land. You could turn your head, right?
You just can't advance the ball.
All right.
Or you just
think
can't
about
start
it.
Yep.
Right. But you just can't you can't move. You can't I suppose you could pass fake, bring it back, and then call timeout, right? You can do that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it gets dicey when you start to think about it moving up the floor. So that's the problem because I don't think that there was even a chance for Carlisle to call a timeout here because of that. Right now. Then what I'm thinking about, I had to jump back 15 seconds every time. It drives me nuts. Here we go. So
I'm thinking you call a timeout after he's got it into the front court because there's, in my opinion, and I'm not looking at the play right now, but I thought it was a offsetting number of player, or like not offsetting. I thought it was a disadvantage. I thought it was like 1-on-3 or something like that. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Okay. So not only was there a guy on his keister out of bounds, there was another player out of bounds right over him, right? But there was one Celtic out of Tatum after missing the layup, which is one of those things where that's what I'm remembering. The 36 points, I don't remember so much. The layup, the shots he missed, I remember. And dribbling off the guy's foot. Anyway, so here's the question: 9.6 seconds to go when he's got it, and now he's going to go. You got to wait now to get to the half court to call that timeout, and then you're getting into the danger zone again. And like, do you have enough time to call a play? But even here, you know what? He could have called it at the hash mark or at the coach's box on the other side. Just on the other side of the half court, they would have had 7 seconds at least. So that would be where they should have called it.
Yeah, and that's what I would agree with on that situation. I'm not even mad that he didn't try or didn't coach him up to call a timeout real quick or to advance it or didn't do that before they started advancing the ball. I'm more concerned about like once they got into the front court, why don't you call one there? I know hindsight's 2020, and I know it's easy to say this after Nimhard coughs up the ball and Drew gets that really good, or Holiday gets that real still or good still. But it's like in that situation, I don't think you don't have an outnumbering fast break. It's one of those situations where you call a timeout, you can set up a play, you got 7 seconds. Now you can set what you want to set up. You're only down by, what was it at that point? 1. Yeah. You're only down by 1. So
I mean,
I mean, that's what I
listen,
would
the
do.
argument could very well be don't let the other defense set up. That's what you don't want. But
Mhm.
at that point, they were set up, and there not a lot was going to happen out of that. Halliburton, is the guy that you want to be in a situation to create something out of nothing, not Nembhard, no matter how well he played the rest of the game.
Mhm.
And I'm looking to try and see. I mean, I think he saw Drew kind of not stumble, but move out of the way a little bit. And he's like, oh, I got an advantage. And then poof, all of a sudden it was not there anymore. So,
Yeah.
and so it was crazy. It was a crazy, great steal. That's why Drew Holiday, give Drew Holiday the game ball. I thought he played really, really well.
He played really well, man. And one more thing about that real quick, because I saw some other comments on that specific play. Just to give you guys a hint what the officials are looking at on that play that makes it a tad easier to officiate. It's a tough play, right? But the officials are refereeing the defense. So most of their focus on that play is on Holiday. Okay. They have to make sure that Holiday is in a legal guarding position when that imminent body contact occurs, because if he's not, it's a blocking foul. Okay. So they're already focused on the defender while everybody else in the gym and on TV is watching the ball handler, Nembhard. They're actually watching the defender. So they see that Holiday's in a legal guarding position upon contact, and that swipe for the ball is a clean swipe of the ball. And that's why where it may seem, like an obvious foul to everybody else in the gym, that's how the officials are able to get that play right and correctly no call it, because they know that Holiday was in a legal guarding position upon contact.
Absolutely. Great call. Great call. Wait, our next super chat is from Sal Mark. Thank you so much, Sal. Do the Celtics actually play good basketball? And, we're going to have to define good basketball because, there are moments, yes, where the ball moves and they do run some offense and they get good shots. And there are moments where they ISO and it's like that could be good basketball depending on what you prefer and what you think is aesthetically pleasing. Defensively, I don't know either. I'm not even excited. Now, granted, KP probably does a lot for them and they can do a lot more things. In fact, I saw a play. I almost want to try and diagram it where, it was Tatum was guarding McConnell or Nembhard maybe. And the ball's on the baseline, and then they were all looking at the baseline. And Tatum's man cuts to the basket. I think his name is McConnell. He caught it and he cut back door, whatever, and got it and hit a jumper. And it was Derek White had the challenge. I think this was in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. And I went back and looked at it really quickly because it was I was like, Tatum's man, why is he screwing that up? Tatum didn't fall asleep. He didn't just stand there and watch the ball, whatever. He started cutting all the way to the weak side corner to get that guy like Nembhard, who was open.
Yeah.
And then Derek White kind of stepped up almost like that was part of it was wild because that takes, you got to play together for a long time and have
a long time to get that chemistry
defensively. So I guess that what that could tell you is these guys are, on the same page and they have advanced defensive principles as well. Here's the problem. When he goes to run to Nembhard in the corner, that happened with the shot goes up with a second on the shot clock. So there was no time for whoever had the ball on the right block to fire it to the left corner, and there was no way to get it there anyway. So he was running there for no reason. And when that was not a viable shot, he would have been just better to stay on his man and just prevent that. So as a result, I mean, listen, the Pacers are exposing some weaknesses, right? The Celtics are having a lot of trouble. They're not overtly physical. And if you're not physical enough, I think the Knicks were able to show the more physical you are, the team that wants to get going fast and pass the ball and cut and move, then it's harder to do that. And now they're not getting the same kind of resistance. And I feel like it's also one of the reasons why they're able to compete without Halliburton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with all that.
All right, cool. That's a lot of talking. All right, well, let's go to another next. Cato, thank you so much, Cato. Back again for another super chat. I really, really appreciate it, and this also just helps us keep this show going. It really is important. So thank you. Who's the better defender, Drew Holiday or Marcus Smart? Do you believe the biggest mistake the Milwaukee Bucks made was letting Celtics get Drew Holiday? Was letting go, I think, or letting Celtics get letting go. Yeah. Well, do you want to wait on this first?
Let me read it one more time. Who's the better defender?
Drew Holiday, Marcus Smart.
Man, so I think they're both outstanding defenders. Obviously, I mean, so Marcus Smart is. It's hard to argue against him because, I mean, he's one of the only guards that's won the Defensive Player of the Year in who knows how long, right? Yeah. And that was well deserved in my opinion. He hounds you, man. Like he's one of those. He's annoying. You know what I mean? He annoys the heck out of ball handlers, and not that Holiday doesn't. So here's the thing. I like both of their defense off the ball as well. It's hard for me to pick one. At the risk of sounding like recency bias, I'm going to go with Holiday because I like his style a little bit more than I do Marcus Smart's. But man, Marcus Smart is a good defender, man. Both of their off-ball defense is really good too, as well as their obvious on-ball activity is fantastic. What do you think?
Well, I wonder if Cato's been a long-time listener, because anybody who's been part of the show for a little while knows what I feel about Marcus Smart. And it's not just offense. Marcus Smart, and so I love when you come on and you give us those insights as a trained eye of a referee, right? And all the little nuances and what you're looking for and what they're looking for and how that all fits together. Well, I have that for the defensive side, right? For basketball.
Yep, absolutely.
And so Marcus Smart, so first of all, off of the ball, his defense is usually pretty bad. I got to tell you, sorry.
Okay.
He gets lost. He doesn't know where this man is. He doesn't rotate. Like, it's weird. He plays on pure energy. And by the way, there's a real value to having someone that does want to take that on and use up more of their energy on defense than they do on offense or equal, whatever that is, right? Mm-hmm. So that's good. And I'm not going to tell you that he doesn't try as hard as he can on defense, because he does. And that puts him already way ahead of a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Now, Drew Holiday, though, from a coach's perspective, is a fine defender. Like, and I say fine, I mean like you would want him at the head of your defense every game, every day, because that he's going to be there on every rotation. He's going to talk. He's going to be getting around screens as well as he can. He's not going to flop. He's not going to fall down much. I mean, all those things that Marcus Smart gets involved in, right? And then when you talk about the other stuff, all the flopping and all the instigating stuff, it gets emotionally draining for everybody involved. So
that's probably another reason I go Holiday on that too, is because you're absolutely right about that. I don't like the extracurricular from Smart. I like that Holiday's kind of a face up, let's get down to work type thing and not try to do any gimmicks. And
he's so solid. He's so beyond solid that's when you want that every night. You want to be able to know that that's coming every night. And he doesn't get beat on the weak sides. He knows where his man is. I mean, really, I think that he is probably as good. He's better than my mind. I would take him over Smart defensively anyway. I mean, I had seen him go up against like LeBron in the post and hold him out of the post. And like, he might've gotten scored on a couple times, but he was like, he's 6 inches short or whatever he is. And he was able to hold him and really make him work. And he's no nonsense. Nothing bothers that guy. And there he is ready to go for that steal. So I'm telling you, Drew Holiday deserves more recognition than he probably already gets a bunch. But do you believe the biggest mistake the Milwaukee Bucks made was letting Celtics go get Drew Holiday? So it's a complicated thing because it brings in Dame, right? And I had always felt like Dame was what Giannis needed. They needed a little bit more than what like Drew brought offensively, and they needed someone like Dame to do it versus Middleton, because I felt like Middleton was doing too above his head too. It didn't really work, but we don't know if it really was going to work because the injuries were such a terrible problem, right? But like, if you have a Drew Holiday on your team, it's hard to imagine you wouldn't do everything you possibly could to keep him. And I guess Dame is the one guy or whatever that that you have to like take a risk on for that. But the Celtics, I'm sure, were really happy that he was available. Yep. My goodness.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get to our next super chat here. The Drew Show is back. With 2 minutes left, Rick turns to SHIT. 2 Ricks.
That's what he was referencing earlier. That's what he was referencing earlier, for sure.
Yeah, and we talked about the substitution pattern, though, right? The last 2 minutes.
I have to imagine that's part of it.
We can run the play-by-play to see what he was doing, but that was less of an issue. I think, but I'm more concerned with their defensive stuff and the way they don't play defense well enough. They're not on the same page. I mean, Siakam is. By the way, Siakam's another guy. He's a good defender, but he makes mistakes that don't show up in the box score. Rotates like he rotated to Tatum on the left wing, leaving Horford wide open for the 3 in the corner. That was huge, I think, in the fourth. And all the Horford must have had how many threes in the fourth?
7, I think. Dude,
total?
I think he was like 7 for 12 or something like that.
Okay, and in the fourth quarter, Al Horford had 2 for 3 in the fourth, and I'm pretty sure one of them was that one where, whoever was guarding Horford had cut him off and was right there, ready to close out, and he just kind of runs over to him anyway, and Tatum goes right to the corner, and he's just like, okay, wide open three. Like, you cannot do that. It's like, you have
especially after he'd already hit a few,
Yeah. Now let's talk about the Tatum, the foul that he was able to draw on the left wing when he slid his left foot pivot. They pointed out on the broadcast, and we talked about it in the text.
Oh yeah.
And I had said they have to, because there was an obvious foul. You can't argue the foul, but right. Man, you actually said that he did more than just slide the left foot. What were you saying in the text? Do you remember?
Yeah. So as we know, by NBA Rule 10, Section 13C, a player in starting a dribble, a player may not lift their pivot foot, right? Whether it's after they've come to a stop or whatever. If they're starting a dribble, you cannot lift your pivot foot and then start a dribble. Right. Not only did he lift that left foot, JJ Redick did a great job of pointing it out on the broadcast. He also replanted that pivot foot before he released the ball to start a dribble, which makes it a little bit more. Now, here's the thing. Doris followed it up by saying, it was a slight, move of the pivot foot. Yeah, but I mean, like, it's one of those things where if it's a lift and a replant and then he releases it, that's obvious enough where you can call that, because that's a face-up traveling violation, and it gives them an advantage to getting by their defender. And in this situation, it gave him a little advantage, because now that means that McConnell in that situation was not still directly in his path. It gave him a little bit more leverage to get around him, and McConnell had to try to shift. That's why he got called for the blocking foul.
Yeah.
So I think you got to call that travel.
The one that I don't really like is when you have the ball in your hands and then you lift both feet and you split and go. And we see like LeBron do that. And that using ground reaction forces in that way to explode into a different direction is even more of an advantage than what Tatum did. But it just felt like, now it was all messy in there, and McConnell was pressuring, and it's hard. It's all the feet and the hands and whatever. So I can kind of get it. And it wasn't like, it happened, but it was, a little bit tough to see.
Well, I mean, it was subtle. It wasn't on the more obvious end. It was more subtle, but it was one of those things where, and sure, listen, I understand a lot of people are going to say NBA refs don't call that a lot, but the main reason they don't is when they're subtle like that, they're refereeing the defense in that situation. They've got most of their attention on McConnell, and so it's a 70-30 mentality for anybody who's interested. It's the 70-30 officiating on this play. So 70% of the ref's attention is going to be on McConnell because they're refereeing the defense. 30% of their attention is going to be on the ball handler to make sure that they're not doing anything illegal from a violation standpoint. All right. So they're more focused on the defender, but then it's hard to kind of connect the dots between the defender and the feet of the offensive player sometimes, especially when that offensive player is starting to dribble. Most of that attention is going to focus on that defender. So that pivot foot move or slide or lift and replant has to be a little bit more obvious for them to be able to pick up on it, and it's be that red flag to say, okay, I need to call this.
For sure. Now, for what it's worth in the play-by-play, I believe that was the foul that they called on McConnell with 4:57 left in the fourth quarter, and they didn't get free throws for it, and Horford missed a three. So they actually got the ball back, so it didn't kill them anyway.
Gotcha.
So that's okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, because you would have hated to have to been like a Horford 3 on that or something like that. So it didn't kill him. But, it would have been, I just felt like that one was tough. All right, let's get to our next super chat here from Darren. Thank you so much, Darren Faust. I really appreciate it. Is Jason Tatum the Celtics' best player? Well, Combo and I had this conversation for years now, and we both like Jaylen Brown a lot better, or not a lot better, but we like him better. And I'm wondering if this is going to be the playoff season where we start to question that a little bit. I mean, the guy's been a 30-point game of score or whatever, but I don't know. He gets it, and again, he had 36 tonight, but it was weird. It didn't seem like that, and he has enough of these moments where he loses the dribble and he misses inside shots easy. He got frustrated. By the way, do you see how speaking of being physical? They were being physical with him when he was playing defense too. He's getting all mad. He's yelling in the middle of possessions. It was a bad look. Did you think he should have got a technical foul for pointing at the ref so overtly like he did on that call on him?
So probably if that's a regular season game, he probably does, if I'm being honest. Playoffs, guys, officials are a little bit more hesitant to give technical fouls in the playoffs, as we've seen on multiple occasions this playoffs.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of those things where they probably warned him a bunch of times and he still continues to do it or still continues to chirp. That's going to be more along the line, or if he does something so overt and so demonstrative that it cannot be ignored.
Mm-hmm.
In that situation, you probably could have given him one right there. I'm okay, I guess, with him not doing it in that situation.
For sure. Well, the thing that I like about Jaylen Brown is he kind of stays within himself more, but because he's an elite athlete, staying within himself is still like so much better than most of the league. Even though he's starting to stray a little bit more and do some interesting shots and other things that might be in that Tatum route, where Tatum gets in these multi-combo moves that get messy sometimes and they can really miss badly, and then he can hit 4 in a row. It's like it kind of is up and down. And in tonight's game, Tatum went 12 for 23 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3, 7 for 11 from the free throw line, which isn't amazing.
No,
10 rebounds and assists. And then Jaylen Brown, though, was 10 for 18, really efficient. Although he missed 4 of the 5 threes, and then 3 for 4 from the line, 3 assists, 2 rebounds. So it's those, and he had a couple buckets, I believe, in the fourth quarter that were really important for them. Brown did. Then Tatum goes and misses that layup that led to the foul, right? Which was it was a layup. I mean, a couple guys were there. He did have a beautiful behind the back bounce pass to the corner for a Horford three. And it was probably the right way to throw that because the way their defense was and where he was going, it was the most power for the pass, and he could as long as he, it's like remember when Steph throws through that in the game 7 of the whatever, and
oh man, yeah, that was crazy,
something like that, right? But man, I guess if you can do it, you might as well.
And I think he did it a couple times to Horford tonight. That behind the back, he drives and then does that behind the back pass out.
Yeah, one was easy. One was easy because I know. I think it was again Siakam. I get it. He commands a lot of attention, right? Coming around a pick and roll on top, but you can't, send 2. If one guy, if the ball screener's man picks him up, you can't just run wild at him, thinking that he's still my man. You have to hold, especially when it's Horford, because he'll just stand there and they'll throw it to him. And that was that was an easy behind the back. But the other one, though, I'm telling you, he was already in the lane, I think, and he threw it, and it was a bounce pass behind the back, right on the money.
Perfect, right on the money.
Yeah. So I'm not even. Oh, I did share it. I shared it with the caption was Gary Payton impressed face. That one where he gets dunked over.
Yep.
That was definitely worth it. That's the expression I had.
Great.
All right, we have another super chat here. Here we go. Let me scroll. I see it, but I don't see it. Wait, I see it, but where is it? How do I make this go? I see who it's from, but where do I? All right, I'm gonna keep scrolling. Maybe. Oh, here it is. All right, Kato's back again. Thank you so much. So generous of you, the super chat. Really, really appreciate it. What happened to Sam Hauser? He's virtually unplayable. He's horrible on defense and can't hit a shot to save his life. What do you think Joe Mazzulla can improve on as a coach during the playoffs? So, yeah, I mean, he's not getting a lot of time. Let me look at his – I bet you if we look at his playoff versus regular season, it's a lot different, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So let me do this real quick.
I'd be shocked if it isn't.
In the regular season, he averaged Hauser averaged 22 minutes a game, played in 79 games, started 13 of them. In the playoffs, Hauser is down to under 15, and he's played in all the games, but he's playing 15 minutes. That's a 7-minute decrease plus. That's hard, right? Now you're only getting like a 1 run in the first half and maybe 1 run in the second. It's quick, and if you don't hit that first 3, then you're out. That kind of thing. So that's part of it, especially for a shooter, you know what I mean, who's not getting major minutes. And then you're right. I don't think he was ever very effective on defense anyway, but it helps when he's knocking down 2 or 3 threes for you. Now that that's not happening as much because of the playing time, then he's less valuable. Now, what do you think about Joe Mazzulla? What can he improve on as a coach? Well, I don't know. You can't just improve your offense overnight, right? You can't get better actions and more, less ISOs. Because I think what the question then becomes is are the ISOs and is the ball stopping stuff, like, are Brown and Tatum really that good? Are they the LeBron level or the Luka level to be doing that? Like, what do you think, Chip?
Yeah, I mean, I think they could be. It's just, I don't know. I think that Tatum's going to he's got a certain style that he wants to play. I think Brown's got a certain style that he wants to play. And I don't think that they fit that well with that type of system, in my opinion. More so Tatum doesn't fit with. I mean, and I'm not talking about Missoula's system. I'm talking about the system where there's a lot of ball movement, and there's not as much ISO and stuff like that. I don't think they would fit. I think that this is their niche. Tatum likes to hunt shots. He likes to, and listen, he almost had a triple double tonight. He was close to 10 assists. So, and we already commented about his assist to Horford on a couple of occasions. I think he can do it. I just we don't see a lot of ball movement from them all the time. And I think that's something that could benefit them greatly.
Well, what's sad about that is that in two years ago when they made the finals, they did do all of that. They had the skip passing and the driving and the kicking and the movement. From the second half of this, from the middle of the season onwards, they changed it all around. And we were trying to figure out what Ime did. And there's an article like Ime did do something. He I think it was intimidation or something. He got in their faces and said something, and they finally said okay. And then that spurned them on because they were having a very mediocre year, if you don't remember, until that point. And then that got them right to the finals. So that's the thing. Maybe I'll do the video. I'll go back and grab those clips because it was beautiful then. And I don't want to get caught up in aesthetics and old head coaching where we ought to have 4 passes every possession like in Hoosiers.
No.
But sometimes you wonder when you see they get ahead of their skis, and some Tatum will do James Harden stuff. At the height of James Harden's powers, you see him doing the same kind of stuff, and it doesn't always go as well. Harden was a much better driver than Tatum, much better. And that's a big part of it because he delays that through the legs, and then and then he gets you, and then he explodes. Even though he was never this guy who looked like he was in great shape, he had a good first step, and he was strong, and he was going to draw that foul. So it's a different thing where Tatum doesn't do that as much. He'll settle for threes a lot, and it's not always awkward.
Yeah, I was about to say the word settle too. Settle is what comes to mind with me, not just with threes, but even when he's trying to look for shot creation on drives, turnarounds, kickouts, he ends up opting for these one-legged fadeaways where he's kicking one leg out and he just looks off balance, and it just doesn't seem like there's a good flow or rhythm to it. You know what I mean?
And it's a low percentage shot, I think, bottom line. And you want higher percentage shots. And if you have to get one like that, then okay, have it be the last resort. And it feels like sometimes these are the first shot choice is the really low one, and that's tough. All right, let's have our next super chat. Vance Armstrong. This is my favorite name of anybody right now. Vance Armstrong. Should Indiana be playing Jarris Walker? He looked good in sparse minutes over the season, but apparently has some shortcomings as a rookie. I don't know. I have no plays of Jarris Walker in my brain right now.
I don't either.
I'm sorry. I don't know. But sometimes when a guy like that, Halliburton goes out, somebody steps out of the void, and you had no idea. And McDermott in the game before got a couple of garbage minutes, whatever. And I bet you they're remind, remember he actually was pretty good. He could shoot a little bit. Let's give him a run this game. So sometimes that happens that way. So I feel like Jarris probably got some minutes at the end of the last game too, and it was in the blowout, right? In game 2, but I think we did. But I mean, at this point when you're down, I think you recognize this, Chip. A lot of times when you're down 3-0, the coaches will start to do that. But kind of all right, let's try doing some other things. Maybe we'll throw somebody, which makes it even harder. Dude hasn't played all series long, and now you're throwing him out there.
Throwing him into the
might see that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did see an interesting sub, especially if Halliburton's not available.
Yep.
But good question. Good question.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think we covered all of our super chats for the moment, at least. Is there anything else we got to worry about? I guess we got to think about maybe tomorrow night's game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Can I comment on two quick plays?
Go ahead.
So me and you had texted about the dive on foul on Tatum.
Oh yeah.
When Nesmith was diving for the loose ball. So here's the thing. And so I know that on the broadcast, they were I think JJ was talking about it. Doris was talking about it. Even Mike Breen had said something about that's usually a jump ball. All right. So I immediately text Coach Nick and I said, man, they don't understand the nuance between some of these types of plays, between this one and the difference in this one and some of the ones that are called jump balls. In this particular situation, this is great that we can look at it here.
Let's just try it maybe as a tweet. Maybe this will be not so bad.
So he gains control of the ball while he's right there, and he's trying to pull the ball over. Okay, first of all, it's not a travel right there. He doesn't gain an advantage by sliding. He's trying to rip the ball away from Tatum. Once he gets that ball away and he's on his side, he doesn't roll completely over, okay? So he's on his side, and then Tatum dives on top of him without having a hand on the ball or getting a hand on the ball at all. That's a dive on foul, because now Neesmith's in a position where Tatum's contact has prevented him from making a normal offensive or defensive movement to be able to throw the pass out, to kick it out. Now he's in a situation where Tatum's jumped on top of him and he's not able to do anything. So you have to call that a foul. And you can't call it a jump ball because Tatum doesn't have his hand on the ball. So that's the difference in that type play from some of those other ones that you see a jump ball. Usually on the jump ball ones, it'll be a similar situation, but Tatum would be able to get his hand in there sooner and then keep his hand on it as Neesmith is rolling away. That doesn't happen on this play, and that's why you have to call the dive on foul in that position.
Yeah, and the difference too is a lot of times both players are diving and they can meet at the same time, and there's a scrum and there's whatever, and they don't call a foul, whatever. But Tatum was on his knees. He's like kind of watching for half a second and then dives on him, right? Like there was an interruption of all that. So you had to call that. You can't just dive on the guy like a grenade or whatever. So I think a lot of Celtics fans are upset. And it seems like there's some Celtics fans in the comments thinking that I'm sort of salty and hate the Celtics.
No.
I'm just giving you, as a coach, an honest opinion of how they play. It doesn't matter what team they are or who they are, really. I mean, I guess what does matter is that we've been watching these players for a lot of years now. And, with Tatum, it's like, are we really going to seriously criticize a guy who's one of the top 5 scorers in the world? Like, that's kind of, it is silly. But there, it is funny because, he does have that role on his team, but he makes certain plays that like a lot of the other top 5 players in the NBA don't, in terms of like missing shots inside or getting stripped or having your eyes down and then not seeing the floor well when you're driving like Tatum does. Maybe fumbling the dribble a little bit. Like it's sort of there's some consistencies there that I'm not interested in hating or whatever. I just I'm supposed to ignore that. I don't think I'm supposed to ignore that. I mean, here I am.
No, it's a fair analysis too, and some of it's your preference, but some of it's things that stick out to you as a coach. You know what I mean? And so, for example, like I really genuinely think, he doesn't make some of the type play, or the other 4 top 5 scorers don't make those type of plays from time to time. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe from time to time, but not as often as he does.
Right. I think that's the point. And by the way, let's talk like Derek White. Oh my God, how good is that guy? Like, I love him.
Fantastic.
And talk about fitting in your role and knowing what you can do and what you can't do. And that I really can't even figure out how often he gets blocked shots, and only in the sense that like, okay, why haven't more guards gotten blocked shots as consistently as he does? It's remarkable. Anywhere he is, maybe he's got really long arms and whatever, he just reaches up and it's a block shot. Kind of like remember Meta World Peace when he was Ron Artest. If you were anywhere near him with the ball, like he would swipe it. Like it was uncanny how good he was at that. And White's got this weird block shot thing too. So it's a pleasure to watch him. Listen, I still like watching Al. Al is fun to watch. He still does all the things. He's tough. He's a little bit mean sometimes. I mean, he got that. They caught him on that foul on that rebound. Who did he hit? Or who did he get in the face? Was it McConnell?
Oh, maybe
it might have been McConnell or Nemhart. Anyway. It's like he's got all the little veteran tricks. He does all the stuff. It's subtle. You got to get your eye on him to watch it. But anyway,
speaking of White, though, I think somebody had brought it up earlier, but like that was the other play I was going to talk about. What about that flagrant foul? What were your thoughts on that play? I know we had texted briefly about it, but where it was that closeout flagrant one.
Oh yeah.
Was it on Turner? It was on Turner, right?
Yeah, Turner shot a 3 and then he landed on his foot. I mean, okay. Is it a fact that he landed on White's foot?
That's fact, part of it.
Mm-hmm. And is it a fact that in the rule it says if you land on someone, if you put your foot underneath and that lands on your foot and he is not kicking out overtly, then that's a flagrant no matter what, right? Isn't that the fact?
Yeah, so it's a flagrant one if it's a reckless closeout where you take away their landing space, especially if they land on your foot. Now, here's the issue on this play is because you brought up a really good point inadvertently, but like I think some people actually have maybe a case for saying that Turner did overtly kick his right leg out and that it was more of an unnatural leg extension that caused him to land on that foot. For people that are saying that, and that's the reasoning for thinking that it should not have been a flagrant one on White, I actually tend to agree with you a little bit more than you might think. I think I still support their call on it, but it's one of those where it's close enough to where I'm like, that one looked like an unnatural leg kick out a little bit is what caused him to land. But what they're looking for in that is it's a reckless closeout. It's not just about him landing on the foot. It's that he's entering his space and he's stepping in there like that. And then when there was foot contact, they kind of had to call it. But again, for those of you making that point, I think you actually have a valid point.
Interesting. It's funny. I believe that review took a long time, right?
That's the reason why, because they're trying to decide between Turner's right leg being an overt leg extension and leg kick out is what causing that to be a landing space play, or a potential reckless closeout, or is it a natural leg extension as part of the shot, or would there have been contact even if it wasn't a leg extension, or would he still be in his landing space even if it wasn't a leg extension? Does that make sense? Those are the different variables that they're looking at in that replay process.
For sure. So they took their time. They really looked at it, and they really wanted to make sure they got it. So I didn't feel like, the sway, we call the sway of the natural leg flowing forward, nothing stood out to me on that one. But I was probably still, even at that point, still just focused so much on where the foot was that I didn't even, consider it as enough. But nothing is jumping out of my mind thinking about it. But overall, a good game, heartbreaking again, because really Indiana. I mean, the Celtics stole this game. It's a classic on the road, stealing a playoff game, exactly how you do it, and they did it perfectly. But it won't make the Pacers feel any better. They had game one, they gave it away. They pretty much had game three. That's not hating on the Celtics. I mean, people are still thinking I'm hating on the Celtics. It's like I don't even know what hating means at this point. I'm just offering my I don't care who or what. It doesn't matter. I'm just giving you my unbiased opinion from each individual player as they fit together as a team. It doesn't matter what the logo is on their jersey, but nonetheless, it's over. Probably now, and look what happened after game one, right? Even though they competed in the first quarter of game two, their hearts were broken to some degree. It went sideways pretty quick. And I would imagine that, I bet you game four, it's going to be heartbreaking, and they're probably going to end up sweeping.
I think that that's probably my pick right now too, unfortunately. Yeah. And I'd love to, as a neutral fan, I'd love to see, it go 7 like I would any series, man. Just because I get to watch more basketball, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But listen, I'll tell you this: a game one and this game right here, super entertaining games. That's what you want. I love being able to watch it. And I know if you're a Pacers fan, man, it's got to be gut wrenching for sure, especially with how you played.
Well, Young Reese makes a great point in the comments. If Halliburton was healthy and they had Ben Mathurin, I don't know if the Celtics beat them. By the way, they might not have this. They might not have the record they have, and then because Mathurin was out for a while. But let's just say this is how they matched up anyway in any kind of playoff series. I don't know, man. The way we've seen this, how close it was with what they have, and if they had those two guys, I don't know. I think the Indiana would have had a really good shot at beating the Celtics. What do you think?
In game one and game three, especially game two. Game two would have been closer, in my opinion. I think, that's a really good point.
Yeah, because what do they need? They need a guy like Mathurin. They need a little bit more scoring. I got to go in my head to remember. I don't think Mathurin played defense well, and he might have been another reason why their defensive rating was low. But I got to tell you, even the guys like Neesmith and Nembhard, those guys have stepped up to the point where they're playing a lot better defense than they had for whatever reason. The motivation's there, and maybe they would have gotten a little bit more from Mathurin and they get the competitive nature because he's a real competitor. But even still, as a scorer, he's good enough where he'll give you a bunch of points, and then if he gives away some, it's still going to be a net positive. So the Drew Show is back.
Hang on, real quick. But if we're playing ifs and buts right here, what if Porzingis is here? You know what I mean? So
that is true. That is true. And that's the big difference because KP does change so much. We really got to see him out there because it's not like on the margins where Mathurin comes in and gives you an extra 15 points or whatever. KP changes a lot of things, from the get-go. All right, let's get to our last one. Drew Show. Thank you so much, Drew. Always great to have you again, by the way, really. Pacers should be up 2-1, but the fourth quarter, Rick, he really wants to make
He's going in. He's going in on Rick tonight, bro.
Yeah. It's funny because some of the people out of the woodwork were kind of on Twitter complaining about Carlisle in Dallas, in the last several years after the championship. And, normally Carlisle was in those conversations for top 5 in the league for coaches and stuff. So that was interesting, but it could just be sour grapes at this point for him not being there anymore. He's a good coach. And look at their offense. Their offense is a great example. defensively is a problem, and they need to figure out how to shore that up. But I fear it's too late for them. I fear it's probably too late for the Wolves as well. It seems like the Mavericks have got enough control over that series as well. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. But
yep,
yeah.
I'm looking forward to another good game tomorrow night, man. It's going to be a good one. I think. I mean, the Wolves have to give it. They have to win this game.
Yeah.
If you're the Wolves, you have to win this game. So by any means necessary. So do you think that do you think there's anything that they're gonna resort to? And by the word resort, I mean I'm talking about extra physical, or any kind of different tactics they might employ, because this is a do or die for them right now. They've got to have this game.
Yeah, I mean, they know that they can get into Luka's head a little bit. So they might try to do that and get him, angry and at the refs and the whole thing and distracted. And that would certainly be that. Are they going to resort to putting someone in who hasn't played for like 6 fouls and do that? Like, probably not,
Mm-hmm.
But that's an era long gone. But yep. But yeah, you could probably see something like that. And by the way, we know that Minnesota can do that because they were doing it to Denver as well. They got under Denver's skin and they were really extra physical. So they have that in their arsenal, no problem. So I would not be surprised if they came out like Game 2 against Denver, looking to do that and see what they can get, how the game's going to get reffed, and if they can, that's a good hope. They're not that far off either. But man, as I did in the video today, if you go watch it. They let Rudy. It's not that Rudy got scored on from Luka, because Luka hands everybody threes and step backs and whatever. It's that they let him one-on-one. And I know that he did on the first one, but right the possession before that, he got on the side, which, by the way, is exactly how my defense is played, like Chase defense.
Yep.
And it worked out perfectly, right? Just do that again, Rudy. Why didn't you do that again? But it's Rudy, it's not, he doesn't always sort of, execute stuff like that. But it seemed clear enough that you just, especially with the last possession, not the second to last possession, but the last possession, anybody, and we talked about this last night in the last show, anybody but Luka has to beat you. If it's Lively, if it's Derek Jones Jr., anybody else. And they let him do that, and that's the problem. So we'll see if they adjust there as well. But Chip, great show. Thanks for coming on and being part of it.
Hey, thanks for doing it. I'm glad we actually got to do one. We didn't think that tonight was going to be when we did it, but hey, it was a competitive game and a lot to talk about.
Yeah. So and really a great game, a really great game, really fun. Again, I do. So if you think I hate the Celtics, I don't think apply, but I do gravitate to the underdogs. So I really like it when I see the underdog and they're scrapping and they're scraping, and they were really doing it and they were handing it to them and it was going to be a thing. So, I am disappointed. I really wish the Pacers had won that game. It would have been good. It's just, let's see the underdog get a victory every now and then, but we'll see what happens on Monday. But hopefully you have a good barbecue maybe tomorrow. I'm going to do a little barbecue.
Man, we did the garage sale today. We're going to do a little bit more tomorrow of the garage sale, but it was a great day, man. I'm exhausted though, for sure. Okay. So I'm going to get me a little rest right now and look forward to a garage sale tomorrow and watching some basketball and grilling out, baby.
Absolutely. I'm going to do the same. And then I'll have to, I'm going to have some people over here. I'm going to have to kick them out for the post-game show. Maybe I'll bring them on the show. We'll see.
Bring them on the show, man. The more the merrier.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow, and go Wolves, go. Thank you. This is my mind. I am so blown away. Go Timberwolves and go Dallas. Wow. And we'll see what happens. But anyway, thanks, Chip. Thanks everybody out there. It's
late, man.
Yes. And don't forget, sports fans, the B-Ball Breakdown. We're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Chip?
I'm in, baby. Let's do it.